Welcome to the University of Michigan Dentistry Podcast Series, promoting oral health care worldwide.
Why sprues are not available commercially, and one has to make them. One can make Y sprues either from wax rod or a paper clip. Here's a wax rod. You can take this wax rod and shape it in the form of a Y, just like what I am doing here. And then one can go and attach this to his pattern. Then after that, remove the pattern and go ahead and invest it. Even though this sounds so simple, but in practice, this is by far more difficult, because when you are attaching two waxes together, there's always a possibility of melting part of the pattern, or during the removing it, many times the sprue and the pattern, they get separated from one another. And also during the placing it in the sprue former, one has a difficulty to do it. So therefore, we are very highly recommending to using of a paper clip instead of a wax rod for Y sprues. One can take a paper clip like this, and then by means of a side cutter, he can go ahead and cut right around here. Now this is usually too long, and one needs to cut a little, make it a little bit shorter by cutting a piece of it, which I am doing it now. Now, as you see, what you have in here is a U, is a large U. And then by means of this side cutter and another plier, you can go ahead and close this U completely. In this form. Now, holding with this plier and using again side cutter, you can open the two ends of this closed U. Now you can see it now. Now then, this is not exactly what we want. We want you to turn these edges up. Now the distance between these two edges should be exactly the same, right distance that you want it to have for your pattern. In other words, go ahead and try on your pattern and see if that is what you wanted. Now this looks like it's a little bit too large. Then go ahead and close it a little bit more, which that's what I'm doing. Now this is not bad. Then I will go ahead and I will attach this sprue into this pattern. Now this has been attached. Now I will remove this pattern and then put it on my hand Then take a plier, side cutter, not a plier. Take a side cutter and hold only one of these sides of this Y, not both of them. If you hold both of them, then by spring action you are going to break this pattern. By holding only on one of them, and then you go ahead and place it on your sprue former. And always try to touch only one of them and push it down as much as you can, like this. Then go ahead and add some waxes, particularly in certain spots. First of all, that this part of the sprue, in other words, the side of each side of the paper clip is only about 18 gauge. Now you have to thicken those. And in order to thicken, naturally you are going to use some waxes in there. And then right around here, this distance, we are going to make it completely round so that when the metal is coming in to enter from one hole right in here and then come and separate into these two sides of the wall, a Y. And you can see over here there's a sharp point in here. And that sharp point should not exist, because if it did exist, then the wax investment is going to stay there, and when your molten metal is coming into that, it may break and carry piece of the investment with it. So therefore, you have to go now and take a wax and add into in this fashion that I'm telling you. Now add it in here first. See? Then increase the thickness of these two edges, and then all the way over here into round about maybe 10 gauge or 8 gauge sprue. I believe sufficient amount of wax has been added, and now you can see that each side of the Y has been thickened to the right thickness, as well as the center portion has been thickened, and it is completely round, and over here in the center there is no sharp point. Now you will take this one and go ahead and invest it in a normal manner. The pattern has been invested and sufficient time has been passed, and it is ready to put the ring in the oven. Now you remove the sprue former. Now over here you have the Y sprue now. Now you'll go ahead by means of the side cutter, you cut this Y. Then after you cut it, you put it over the Bunsen burner so that that sprue has gotten warm, and as if you remember, the sides of the Y were more or less embedded in the wax. So now, by heating it, those wax beds are getting softer. Now you go ahead and take your plier and just don't pull them, but hold it and rotate your ring, and it will come out by itself out, just what I have been doing. Remove one by one. You do not have to worry that it is going to scratch any part of your the channel because they were embedded in the wax, and also, if you recall, we bend the edges of that Y slightly higher in order to avoid any scratching. Now, be sure that this part is clean, there is no loose investment. And now take this one to the oven and leave it in the oven the proper length of the time for wax elimination. To summarize, in order to make a Y sprue, you take a paper clip and then cut it out in the form of a U, in this form, and then close the U, then open the two edges of this closed U to make a Y, but making sure that these two are in a plane perpendicular to this edge, as is shown in here. Then turn these two edges in, like this one, until this size is exactly right dimension that you are looking for. By turning these edges in, now you can see how easily this can be pulled out from the investment without causing any scratches. And also, the flow of the molten metal is by far better when you are turning it in this form rather than keeping it open like this.
You've been listening to a presentation from the University of Michigan School of Dentistry, which is dedicated to supporting open learning and open educational resources. This recording is licensed under the Creative Commons. It may be reused and redistributed for nonprofit use. Please attribute materials to the University of Michigan School of Dentistry and redistribute under this same license. For more information on how this and other University of Michigan School of Dentistry recordings may be used, visit www.dent.umich.edu/license.